The junk moon of Varos 3 was silent. No cities, no voices, only dead machines and metal rusting under red skies. Rhett, a human mechanic, walked alone through the scrap fields. He wore a dusty jacket, thick gloves, and a cracked helmet. His scanner beeped as it searched for valuable parts buried under heaps of trash. Every day, Rhett came here to find old tech to fix and sell. This moon was forgotten, abandoned after the Galactic War, but not everything here was dead. Today, something waited. Rhett moved closer to a pile of old ship panels. Suddenly, his scanner glitched. Strange, he muttered. He tapped it. It beeped again. But this time, the sound came not from the scanner, but from inside the junk. Low, deep, broken. A howl. Not machine. Not wind. An animal. Rhett's eyes widened. He reached for his sidearm, then slowly stepped toward the sound. He pulled aside a heavy metal plate. Beneath it, hidden under wires and wreckage, was a creature. Huge. Covered in thick, dark fur soaked with blood and oil. Metal implants ran along its back and legs. Its chest rose and fell, slow and weak. Its yellow eyes opened and locked on Rhett. A snarl rose in its throat. Rhett froze. It was an alien wolf. But not just any wolf. A wolf predator, the kind used as weapons during the war. All had been wiped. Out except this one. Rhett didn't move. He held up both hands. "Easy," he whispered. "I'm not here to hurt you." The creature growled but didn't rise. It couldn't. One of its legs was broken. Metal wires were ripped out. Sparks came from its side. It was dying, left here like trash. Rhett looked around. No traps, no signs of others. "Did they really just leave you?" he whispered. The wolf blinked slowly, not in fear, but in pain. Rhett lowered his weapon. "All right, big guy," he said. "Let's get you out of here." He built a stretcher from scrap and slowly rolled the creature back to his hover cart. Every time the cart bumped, the wolf growled, but it didn't attack. It was watching Rhett, like it was trying to understand why he was helping. Rhett looked down at him. "I'm not your enemy. Let's fix you up. Then you can kill me later if you really want." The wolf gave a small grunt, almost like a laugh. Back at his workshop, an old storage dome half buried in sand, Rhett lifted the creature onto a repair table. Sparks flew as he connected cables to the implants. He examined the damage. "This isn't battlefield damage," he muttered. "This was surgical. Someone opened you up, changed you." The wolf stayed silent, breathing hard, watching. Rhett cleaned the wounds and started basic repairs. He worked for hours. When he finished, he sat back and wiped sweat from his brow. "You should be dead," he said. "But you're not." Night fell outside. Inside, Rhett cooked some simple stew. The wolf sniffed it but didn't eat, still too weak. Rhett placed a small bowl near it anyway, then sat down across the room. "Guess I should name you," he said. He thought for a moment, then smiled. "Kale." The wolf blinked. "Yeah." Rhett chuckled. "That sounds right." As Rhett leaned back, his comm unit buzzed. A message blinked on screen. "Unauthorized life form detected. Tracking beacon active." Rhett's eyes went wide. He looked at Kyle. "Wait, they're still watching you?" He ran to the table and scanned Kyle again. A small light blinked under the fur on his neck. A tracker. Rhett cursed under his breath. He grabbed a knife and carefully removed the chip. Then he crushed it. Too late. Somewhere out there, someone now knew Kale was still alive, and they were coming. The morning light spilled through the dusty skylight of the dome. Inside the workshop, silence filled the air, except for the slow hum of power cables and the soft, heavy breathing of the creature on the table. Kale, the last of his kind, part metal, part beast. And now, something more. Rhett sat beside him, tools in hand. He hadn't slept all night. His hands were sore. His eyes burned. But he couldn't stop. Kyle was alive, but barely. The cybernetic implants in his legs were fried. The left side of his chest had exposed wiring. One of his eyes, completely artificial, blinked in broken rhythm. Rhett worked carefully, whispering as he tightened wires and cleaned wounds. "I've never fixed anything like you." Kale opened one eye, watched him, listened. By noon, Rhett installed a new energy cell. It clicked into Kale's side with a soft whir. Kale flinched, but did not strike. His yellow eye locked onto Rhett's hand, and stayed there. Not in anger, in trust. Rhett stood back and wiped his hands. "You're stable for now," he said, "but I don't know what kind of monster science made you." Kyle slowly pushed himself up on his elbows. Rhett tensed, just in case, but Kale didn't attack. Instead, he lowered his head, not in pain, in thanks. The gesture caught Rhett off guard. "You understand me, don't you?" he asked softly. Kale gave a low grunt. Rhett stepped closer. "You're not just a weapon. You think." Kale blinked. Then, using one metal claw, he pointed to Rhett's chest, then his own. It wasn't much, but it meant something. Connection. Later that night, Rhett sat at his table, going through Kale's implant logs. Most of it was corrupted, but one fragment survived. A video file. Rhett tapped it. A hologram flickered. Above the table, Kale, younger, uninjured, stood in armor beside a peaceful alien woman with glowing skin. Children ran around her. Kale was guarding them, not killing, protecting. Rhett stared. "You were a guardian." The video glitched. A new clip appeared. Explosions, screams. Kale dragged away in chains. Voices yelled, "Shut him down! He's too loyal!" Then darkness. Rhett sat back, stunned. "They turned you into a monster because you wouldn't become one." Kale growled low from the table, like he remembered it too. Suddenly Rhett's comm tablet beeped. He checked it. A new alert. Bounty issued. Unauthorized wolf predator detected. Live capture. 10,000 units. Dead. 5,000. A chill ran through him. "Someone put a price on your head," he whispered. He looked over at Kale. "Guess you're not just rare. You're wanted." Kale snarled softly. He knew. He felt it. Danger was coming. That night, Rhett couldn't sleep. He sat beside Kale with a blaster across his lap. Outside, the wind howled across the junk moon. Inside, two survivors, one man, one beast, listened to the silence. Not as enemies, but as something else. Machine and beast. Kyle stood for the first time. His legs shook under the weight. The metal joints clicked. Still damaged, still weak. But he stood. And Rhett just stared, stunned. "You're healing faster than I thought." Kale didn't answer, of course, but he gave a slow nod, just enough to say, "I'm ready." The workshop was quiet. Outside, the red sky darkened into storm clouds. Inside, Rhett pulled out a dusty data cube. He'd found it buried in Kale's armor. "Let's see who you really were," Rhett muttered. He inserted the cube into his tablet. The screen flickered, then came alive. A voice spoke, female, soft, official. Project Guardian Fang. Subject Kale. Species Varnakian lupine. Mission: Royal Protector for House Arisha. Rhett blinked. "You were assigned to protect royalty?" Images flashed. Kyle walking beside a queen. Children holding his claws, laughing. His eyes then were not glowing with anger, but peace. A different Kyle. But the video shifted. Explosions. Screaming. Kyle fighting off soldiers. Not enemies, but his own team. The voice returned. Subject showed signs of loyalty override. Refused to carry out termination orders. Deemed defective. Rhett's face went pale. "They told you to kill children," he whispered. "And you said no." He looked at Kale, who stood silently in the corner watching. "You weren't a monster. You were their only hope." Kale's jaw tightened. His claws clicked against the floor. He remembered, and it still hurt. Later that evening, Rhett packed supplies, extra power cells, weapons, and food. "We can't stay," he said. "That bounty's spreading. The longer we sit here, the closer they get." Cale nodded, but as Rhett turned, he saw Cale staring at a cracked mirror, looking at his reflection, at the metal covering his face, at the scars, at the glowing eye, a beast, a machine, a memory of what he once was. Suddenly, the sensor alarm beeped. Red lights flashed. Ship detected. Approaching fast, Rhett ran to the screen. One ship. Small. Silent. Not broadcasting a name. "This isn't a rescue ship," he muttered. Cale growled. He could feel it too. The hunter had arrived. Rhett grabbed his rifle. Cale stood beside him. Still, weak, still broken, but ready. "Do we fight?" Rhett asked. Cale looked at him, then gave one sharp nod. "Yes." As the ship landed outside, Rhett whispered, "They tried to erase you, but they failed." He looked at Cale with steady eyes. "You're the last of your kind." Cale growled low, and this time it wasn't weak. It was a promise. Outside, the ship's ramp opened. A figure stepped down. Not a bounty hunter, not a soldier, but a former royal commander, Cale's old master. He spoke through a speaker. "You were a mistake, Kyle, but I'll correct that today." Kyle stepped forward, shoulders squared. His voice, low, rough, mechanical, spoke for the first time. "You trained me to protect. I still do." The sky above the junk moon cracked open with thunder. The small black ship stood silent, its engines humming softly in the dust. A cold wind swept across the land, carrying the scent of fuel, metal, and blood. Rhett stood in front of his dome, weapon ready. Beside him, Kyle crouched low, his body still damaged but his eyes sharp. Ready. Focused. A shadow stepped from the ship. Commander Soren, the man who once led the elite royal guard. The man who ordered Kyle to slaughter innocents. The man who buried the truth and the creature who disobeyed him. Soren's voice echoed from his speaker mask. "Kyle, my loyal dog, you were supposed to die with the others, yet here you stand, broken, pathetic, defended by a junk world mechanic." Rhett gritted his teeth. "You speak big for someone hiding behind armor." Soren chuckled. "I don't fear scrap men, but I do fear what's inside that beast's blood." Cale's body tensed. He remembered that voice, that command, that betrayal. Soren raised a hand. 4 armored drones descended from the ship, hovering armed, glowing red. "Cale, inside your DNA is a memory lock. It can expose our crimes, all of them. That's why you must be erased." Rhett's eyes widened. "Wait, you're not after revenge. You're after silence." Soren replied coldly. "He was built to protect, but he became the key to our destruction." Kyle stepped forward. He no longer looked like a broken beast. He looked like a guardian. His voice, rough but steady, filled the air. "Then come and try." The drones opened fire. Kyle leapt, a blur of metal, fur, and fury. Claws ripped through steel. Sparks lit the sky. One drone fell, then another, but a third fired, hitting Cale in the side. He roared in pain but didn't fall. Rhett blasted the last drone with his rifle, then sprinted to Cale's side. "Stay with me," he yelled. Cale growled weakly, still alive, still standing. Soren stepped forward, pulling out a plasma blade. "Fine, I'll finish this myself." Cale growled and charged. Claws met blade, flesh met metal. The two circled, striking fast, each hit, filled with years of history. Trust turned to betrayal. Rhett watched, helpless. Then he noticed Soren's communicator, blinking. It was sending a signal, a tracking signal, to someone else, to many. "Oh no," Rhett whispered. This wasn't a hunt, it was a beacon. High above, across systems and sectors, the signal was heard, on warships, in black market bounty hubs, inside secret labs. They all got the same message. Kale is alive. Eliminate or capture. Full priority. Back on the junk moon, Kale struck one final blow. His claw shattered Soren's blade and knocked him to the ground. Breathing hard, Kale stood over his former master. Soren coughed. You think this ends with me? Kale didn't speak. He turned away, not to spare him, but because the past no longer held him. Later, as the wind calmed, Rhett helped Kale back into the dome. They patched up the wounds. Neither spoke. But both knew the galaxy was coming. Rhett looked at Kyle. Whatever's inside you, it scares them. Kyle simply said, then let them be afraid. Darkness covered the junk moon, but it was not silent anymore. Above the sky, ships were coming. Many, too many. Hunters, mercenaries, drones, all chasing the same target, all chasing Kale. Inside the dome, Rhett packed fast, grabbing tools, energy cells, weapons. His hands shook. Too late to run, he muttered. They'll be here within the hour. Kale sat still on the repair bench, blood leaking from his side. He didn't move. He just watched. Hey, Rhett snapped. You listening? If you stay, here you're dead. Kale stood slowly. His legs wobbled but held firm. His voice, deep and mechanical, spoke low. I don't run. I protect. Rhett froze. It wasn't just a line. It was a choice. Kale stepped to the center of the room and pressed his claw to the floor. Old wires lit up beneath his feet. Hidden circuits buried long ago. What are you doing? Rhett asked. Kale didn't answer. A panel on the floor opened, revealing an ancient Varnakian power core, glowing faintly. Rhett's eyes widened. Is that from your people? Kyle nodded. Long before war, we built sanctuaries. This was one, forgotten, but not dead. Rhett grabbed a tool and helped him connect the core to the dome's defense grid. As the energy flowed, the rusted walls hummed with new life. Turrets rose from the roof. Shields blinked online. Kyle limped outside, his back straight, his claws sharp. Rhett followed. They stood side by side in the open, stars above, sand below, and from the east, engines, dozens, coming fast. Kale turned his glowing eye toward Rhett. You saved me. Rhett smiled, nervous. Regretted a little, right now. Kale looked back at the sky. I will return the favor. The ships landed. Bounty hunters dropped from the skies in black armor, weapons charged. One of them shouted, Give us the predator and walk away. Kale stepped forward. His voice cut the air like steel. Come and take me. The battle began. Turrets fired. Smoke filled the valley. Kale charged like thunder, claws tearing through metal and flesh. Rhett shot from behind cover, protecting Kale's flank. But it wasn't enough. There were too many. A rocket struck the dome. Sending, debris flying. Rhett fell hard, his arm bleeding. Kale turned and saw him. He roared, not in pain, not in rage, in defiance. Kale leapt over the fire, shielding Rhett's body with his own. Blasts struck Kale's back, but he didn't fall. He stood like a wall, a beast, a guardian. Rhett looked up, coughing. You're gonna get yourself killed, Kale growled, low but proud. Then I die standing, for someone who stood for me. More ships appeared, but suddenly they stopped. Something in the sky shimmered, a huge vessel uncloaked, an ancient Varnakian dreadnought, long believed destroyed. Kyle looked up. He whispered, They heard me. The ship's symbol glowed, a wolf and a flame. A voice echoed from the sky. Kale, son of House Arisha, we welcome your howl. Laser fire rained from above, shredding the enemy ships. The attackers fled. The battlefield fell silent, and Kale, wounded and smoking, dropped to one knee. Rhett limped over and caught him before he fell fully. You did it, Rhett whispered. Kale didn't answer. But in that moment, he didn't need to. The stars felt close, closer than they ever had. Rhett stood on the deck of the ancient ship, the Arisha flame, his eyes wide, his hands trembling. The inside was beautiful but worn. Stone-like walls glowed with soft blue lights. Varnakian symbols lined the halls, whispering stories of a time before war. At the center of the ship, Kyle lay on a healing slab. His breathing was shallow, his armor cracked, his fur dark with blood. But he was alive, and for the first time, among his own kind again. An elder stepped forward. She was tall, wrapped in silver robes, her face part flesh, part light. "I am Sava Thren, last keeper of Varnakian memory," she said. "And Kale is not just a predator." Rhett stepped forward, confused. "What do you mean?" Sava looked down at Kale. His body was built for war, but his mind was born for peace. "He is not the last of our weapons. He is the first of our protectors." Rhett frowned. "Then why did they abandon him?" Sava's face darkened. "Because he chose mercy over orders." She led Rhett to a high chamber, filled with floating memory crystals. She touched one. It glowed, and a vision appeared in the air. Young Kale, standing proud, guarding alien children in a shining city. A voice echoed, "Unit Kale. Activate final. Order. Eliminate compromised assets." Kale stood still, then said one word, "No." The vision shifted. Weapons turned on Kale. Blades, drones, fire. He fought back, not to kill, but to protect the innocent. He was branded defective, erased from records, left to die. Rhett's hands balled into fists. They tried to delete a soul, because it was good. Sava nodded. "Your people, humans, do not yet understand what they found. But you did not see a weapon. You saw someone worth saving." Back in the med bay, Kale opened his eyes slowly. Rhett was already there. "You're safe," Rhett said. "They remember you." Kale blinked, barely spoke, but his voice was strong enough to say, "You stayed." Suddenly the ship's lights dimmed. Warning tones echoed. Sava rushed in. "A signal just reached us," she said. "Someone has copied Kale's DNA. They want to build new ones, but without a heart." Rhett's blood ran cold. They want to make him again. But twisted. Kale sat up, his body still broken but his spirit alive. "We end it. Now." Rhett grabbed his tools. "You're not going alone this time." Kale looked at him, not as a mechanic, not as a human, but as family. In the corner, a crystal flickered, a voice played, one that Kale hadn't heard in years. "Kale, I still believe in you. Come home." It was a recording from a child's voice. One of the royal children he once protected. Still alive. Still waiting. Kale stood. The wounds didn't matter anymore. The pain didn't stop him. He had one last mission, and this time he would finish it not as a beast, but as a protector. The enemy base floated in the void. Cold. Black. Hidden inside the shadow of a dead moon. Inside it, machines worked day and night. Cloning labs, tanks, and dark chambers pulsing with stolen DNA. Kale's DNA. Not to protect, but to control. To build. Beasts without mercy. But on this day, something changed. A small ship broke through the dark. Inside, Kale stood tall. Metal armor reforged. Wounds healed. His eyes clear. Beside him, Rhett, carrying a hacked plasma torch and a full heart, and high above, orbiting unseen, the Varnakian dreadnought prepared to strike. Kale's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. "This is Kale of House Arisha. You cloned my body, but not my soul. I was made to protect, not destroy. I have come to end this." Sirens screamed, defense turrets powered on. Dozens of mutated wolf predators charged forward, twisted copies of Kale, eyes glowing red. Rhett looked at them in horror. "They're like you!" But wrong. Kale nodded. "They are rage without reason." Then he did something Rhett didn't expect. He howled. Loud, deep, pure. The sound carried across the walls, shaking everything. The clones stopped, frozen, listening, and then one of them, smaller, then the rest. Stepped forward. Its claws twitched. Its eyes flickered. Yellow. Kale stepped toward it. Softly. Like a father. You don't have to follow them. The clone's head tilted. Then it turned and attacked its own handler. Chaos erupted. Some clones followed Kale. Others resisted. Rhett activated the virus. They'd prepared and uploaded it into the base's mainframe. Tanks burst. Labs shut down. The cloning stopped. Forever. Kyle fought through fire and death, not to kill everything, but to save what could be saved. And when it was done, when the base collapsed behind them, he didn't howl in anger. He stood in silence, holding the hand of the first clone that chose peace. Later, back on the Varnakian dreadnought, Rhett sat beside him, tired, burned, but alive. You ended it, Rhett said. Kale looked out at the stars. No, he replied softly. We began something, and so they built something new. A sanctuary moon, for misfits, survivors, beasts who wanted more. Then violence. Kale trained them not to be killers, but guardians, like he once was. And Rhett, he never went back to Earth because he had found something better than a job. He had found purpose. He had found Kale. Sometimes at night, Kale would sit beneath the twin moons and raise his head and howl. Not in pain, not in grief, but in peace. The last of his kind was no longer alone.